she's dodged Ava Gardner hurling hairbrushes, filmed love scenes with Marlon Brando and gone toe-to-toe in a catfight with Dynasty's Dame Joan Collins. She even became Hammer Horror's Scream Queen, and who could forget her turn in Coronation Street. But while the days of romping with the wellies and Y-fronts-clad Brando may be behind her, Stephanie Beacham has not quite shaken off the acting bug just yet. In fact, at 76, she's confident her best work might yet be to come, especially as she's convinced her latest roles are less focused on her looks. "I've been doing tons of acting for 60 years, but I still have this feeling that it's quite possible that my best work is ahead of me," Stephanie says. "And I don't think I'm delusional in that. In somewhat Luby speak," she expands, "I think that I will be able to play parts that are not glamour parodies but are about soul and content as the externals become less important." Considering she still oozes glamour, one could argue her externals are those of a star half her age, a throwback to the days when she was blacklisted by Hollywood for refusing to pose nude in Playboy. But as for her best work being yet to come, she might not be wrong. Her newest role in award-winning film Grey Matter has been one of her most poignant. She plays a woman diagnosed with Alzheimer's. "It's a subject close to my heart because my father had dementia," she says, ahead of an Edinburgh Fringe talk. But her amazing 60-year career is never too far from the surface, and Stephanie's only too happy to share. Born in Barnet, Herts, Stephanie attended an all-girls school before catching the theatre bug. She landed her first role on TV in 1967, but got her first big movie break in 1970, in The Ballad of Tamlin, opposite screen idol Ava Gardner. Stephanie recalls, "Ava was only 46 but had no confidence and was very conscious of her fading beauty. Then she lost her temper. She hurled 3 different hairbrushes at her Hollywood hairdresser Sidney Gilleroff. Suddenly, her eyes turned green, her bone structure showed and her beauty shone through. I thought we need to keep this woman in a bad temper the entire film." A year later, Stephanie landed a role in Michael Winner's The Nightcomers opposite another Hollywood legend, her future partner, Marlon Brando. The Godfather star had veto power over the casting of his co-star but was tricked into picking Stephanie. "I was worried that he might want to get rid of me," Stephanie says. "He was offered 2 actresses. And they were both me. Michael showed him a bad photo of me and a good photograph of me. Marlon chose the good photo. During their first love scene together, he surprised her with a rather unusual act of chivalry." She recalls, "One day, he turned up on the set, wearing the biggest pair of Y-fronts I had ever seen in my life, high up on his waist, and a pair of Wellington boots. I said, 'It's a good look, Marlon. What's this about?' And he said, 'Well, you very foolishly signed a complete nudity clause and I don't believe that Michael Winner has the taste to shoot this properly. So I'm not removing these Y-fronts and that means whatever Michael has us do, it can only be used from the waist up.' We got up to some extraordinary things, but in the 70s it really didn't matter. My breasts are everywhere in that film, but nothing else is." Nudity, or the lack of it, came to the fore again during a promotional trip to the States. The producer Joseph Levine said to me, "You'll do Playboy?" And I said, "I don't think so." I then found out I was blacklisted when I was in Sam Peckinpah's office and he was interviewing for the film Straw Dogs. He said, "I can't use you because you've upset some very important people." forced to return to the UK, Stephanie didn't let it affect her career for too long. She made a string of Hammer horror pictures in London, including Dracula AD 1972, opposite Christopher Lee and Peter Cushing. "Peter was one of the sweetest people ever," she says. "In the script for Dracula AD 72, he was my father. Then his wife Helen died and he went from a 16 collar to a 14.5. He aged so much that he was rewritten as my grandfather." Alongside the roller coaster career, she also had an up-and-down love life. As well as Brando, she dated Eric Clapton and Imran Khan, and was married to actor John McInerney, with whom she has 2 daughters, Phoebe and Chloe. It wasn't until she was 60 that she found the one, Dr. Bernie Greenwood. They've been engaged since 2013, but it was perhaps her most famous role, as shoulder-padded vamp Sable Colby in Dynasty and its spin-off The Colbys, that saw her meet another special man in her life, her friend Charlton Heston. "I loved Charlton so much," she says. "I said, Chuck, how come you're such a right-wing old fart? You were on the peace marches with Brando. What's happened to you?" He said, "If my son is correct, it's old age." But like Stephanie's father Alec, Charlton was later diagnosed with Alzheimer's. He died, aged 85, in 2008. Stephanie, who is appearing in conversation at Edinburgh's Preston Field House tonight, adds, "Charlton phoned me up and said, 'My dear, before I forget, I wanted to tell you I love you.' He was a very dear person." Her new role as a dementia sufferer, of course, also reminded her of her beloved dad, who died from the same disease aged 91 in 1991. "He became deaf and blind," she says of Father Alec. "I'd visit him, afraid he might shout at me when I touched him because he didn't know who I was. Mummy died a year before Daddy did. I think she passed over, plumped the cushions and called him. And that's when he passed." Now Stephanie has made a vow for her future as well. "I want to do work for an Alzheimer's charity," she says. "At this end of my career, I want to be more useful.